Why is Mars humanity's backup plan? In 1994, comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 slammed into Jupiter with the force of 300 million nuclear bombs, leaving Earth-sized scars visible for months. What if that comet had been heading straight for Earth instead? Every civilization in history has believed it would last forever. All but one have been wrong. Today we'll explore how Mars could be the insurance policy that saves our species from extinction. And by the end, you'll understand why becoming a multi-planetary species might be our most important achievement. More important than any war, invention, or discovery in human history. Our entire species exists on a single fragile planet, something no responsible investor would call a diversified portfolio. Throughout human history, we've expanded outward, driven by an instinct for survival, from small tribes to global civilization. But now we face a sobering reality. We remain vulnerable to extinction from asteroid impacts, supervolcano eruptions, or self-inflicted catastrophes like nuclear war or engineered pandemics. The dinosaurs didn't have a space program, and they're not here to talk about that mistake. Your children's children might live on two worlds or none at all, depending on decisions we make now. What makes a planet habitable? We need an atmosphere, a reasonable temperature range, manageable gravity, available resources, and protection from radiation. Comparing Earth and Mars side by side reveals surprising similarities. Mars has a day length just 37 minutes longer than Earth's. It has seasons and a solid surface we can stand on. But the differences are stark. Average temperatures far below freezing, an atmosphere too thin to breathe, lower gravity, and no magnetic field to shield from radiation. Yet despite these challenges, Mars has captured our imagination more than any other destination. The central question remains, could humans actually survive on Mars long-term without Earth's support? Imagine leaving Earth behind, watching our blue home shrink to a pale dot as you commit to months in deep space, culminating in arrival on a rust-colored world where the air is unbreathable, the soil is toxic, and the radiation levels would damage your DNA without protection. This isn't science fiction. This is the practical challenge of Mars colonization. And here we find our first major paradox. Mars is simultaneously the most habitable world beyond Earth and utterly hostile to human life without technology. Every seemingly simple survival task, breathing, drinking water, growing food, staying warm, becomes an engineering challenge requiring technological solutions. Living on Mars means creating Earth in a bottle, closed-loop systems where nearly everything must be recycled. Water from your shower becomes water for crops, which provide food and oxygen, and human waste becomes fertilizer. This isn't just a technical challenge, but a complete reimagining of how human civilization functions. Recent breakthroughs in ISRU, in situ resource utilization, show we can extract water from Martian soil, split it into oxygen for breathing and hydrogen for fuel, and use indigenous materials to 3D print habitats. But the challenges extend beyond survival to identity itself. What happens to human culture, religion, and identity when we split into two worlds? Would Martian humans eventually become a separate species through adaptation and evolution? Scientists have calculated a minimum viable population threshold, approximately 10,000 to 40,000 people with appropriate genetic diversity and skill sets, at which a Mars colony becomes truly self-sustaining. Below this number, the colony remains vulnerable to collapse. Above it, humanity achieves something profound: species immortality. Even if Earth were destroyed by an asteroid or nuclear war, human consciousness would continue. This represents the greatest insurance policy ever conceived, not for individuals, but for all our descendants and everything we've created. What would you sacrifice to ensure humanity's survival? Would you volunteer to live on Mars, knowing you might never return to Earth? These questions become urgent when we consider the scenarios where this backup plan becomes necessary. An asteroid on collision course, nuclear winter, an engineered pandemic beyond our control, or runaway climate change. Is establishing this backup our moral obligation, even at enormous cost? Or should we focus on saving Earth first before colonizing other worlds? For many scientists, the answer is clear. We must do both simultaneously, as the same closed-loop technologies being developed for Mars could revolutionize sustainability on Earth. Imagine witnessing the pivotal moment when a Mars colony declares independence and self-sufficiency, the day humanity becomes a multi-planetary species. Two branches of civilization developing in parallel, like an evolutionary tree branching before our eyes. For the first time since life emerged from the primordial oceans, Earth would no longer be the only home of consciousness. Our descendants might look back at this moment as the true beginning of human civilization, the point where we transcended being an endangered species on a single world. This isn't distant science fiction. Every SpaceX launch, every Mars rover, every breakthrough in life support technology isn't just scientific curiosity, it's survival infrastructure. The habitats being designed, the radiation shielding being tested, the plant varieties being developed to grow in Martian soil, these represent the components of humanity's most ambitious backup system. And remarkably, these efforts are already creating innovations that help us on Earth. Water purification systems for developing nations, more efficient solar panels, and agricultural techniques that use fewer resources. Models predict that after several generations, Martian humans would develop physiological adaptations to the lower gravity. Taller, more slender bodies, lower bone density, different cardiovascular systems. Their immune responses would change without Earth's microbial environment. Eventually, distinct cultural evolutions could lead to speciation, marking one of the most significant evolutionary branches in the history of life. Yet rather than dividing us, this expansion might unite us in ways previously unimaginable. Throughout history, humans have organized around shared identities, tribes, nations, religions. Becoming multi-planetary could give humanity its first truly universal identity and purpose. Perhaps the greatest gift of the Mars backup plan isn't just survival, but the unity it could create, giving humanity a shared project that transcends national, religious, and cultural divisions. The challenges of Mars colonization demand international cooperation, pooling of resources, and a long-term vision measured in decades and centuries rather than quarterly profits or election cycles. This shift in thinking, from short-term competition to long-term collaboration, might be exactly what we need to address Earth's most pressing problems. Mars represents more than a scientific frontier. It's humanity's most important insurance policy. The same instinct that drove our ancestors to spread across Earth now pushes us toward the stars. Throughout our evolutionary history, we've never been content to remain in one place, and that restlessness has been key to our survival. Will we be the generation that ensures humanity's immortality by becoming multi-planetary? Or will we be remembered as the ones who kept all our eggs in one basket? For all of human history, we've gazed at the stars and wondered if we're alone. By becoming multi-planetary, we ensure that consciousness, creativity, and curiosity will continue in this universe, regardless of Earth's fate. And while Mars is our first and most crucial step, it need not be our last. The lessons learned establishing a self-sustaining Martian civilization will create the framework for even more ambitious expansions. Once we learn to thrive on another world, the rest of the solar system, and perhaps one day the stars, await. In our quest to preserve humanity, we might discover what humanity truly is. Not just the inhabitants of a pale blue dot, but the carriers of life's torch into the cosmic darkness.